Hi, beautiful souls. Okay, I washed the blemish cream off my face. I'm Narcy for those of you that don't know. We're gonna continue reading from Antidote to Antidote. I am making these videos because I want to share my life experiences, my trials with you guys, and I want to work through them. Because I wrote this book a little over a year ago, when I was homeless, recovering from addiction, methamphetamine use, and I was homeless. It was deep. But it's cool because this book, I published it while I was homeless. I wrote the majority of it on a sidewalk somewhere or in a tent. It has helped me heal. In order for me to, my goal is to complete this book, reading it out loud to you, working through it, so that I can close this book. This book will be done for in the past completely. As I was writing this a year and some ago, I cried the whole entire time. I don't have tears, and if I do cry, it'll be tears of joy. It's a good feeling, guys. I'm on a really amazing spiritual journey. I love God. I really do. All right, so we're continuing from chapter 27, Bait. It doesn't help that the on and off again family was well plugged in. Their kids grew up in the same schools as the judges, played in some of the same sports, and went to some of the same churches. The judge and Mimi were both alumni, and Mimi's husband was an ex-cop. The whole situation was biased, and none of the hearing was done by the book. The only thing that the court documents stated was that my son and the other family desired for my son to live with them, and that I agreed. What criminal charges were made and what proof of neglect was proven. Before a child is removed from a home, there has to be an investigation. The removal of my son was illegal and literally everything was falsified. It wasn't falsified, it was twisted and manipulated. And a few of the things were very much falsified. I tell the story with a sober mind. Mimi's attorney wrote it up to her likings, all the documents, and everyone involved signed off on it. I messed up 5 years ago. Now the on and off again family literally threw my son back at me after calling my sister and telling her they couldn't care for him anymore. Okay, so this happened. There was a period, I think it was in 2017. Yeah, it was 2017. I right before that, when I lost custody of my son, I had a DUI, and my brother, before he passed away, turned me on to the on and off again family. They were already in the system. They were already foster parents. So that was my choice. It was either I lose my son to the system because my family was not going to help me, or confide in this family, and they took responsibility of my son when he was a baby. Okay? So it says I messed up 5 years ago, and then this is going back to that time. Now the on and off again family literally threw my son back at me after calling my sister and telling her they couldn't care for him anymore. And this was in 2017. Yeah. I was in disbelief and beyond thrilled. I was getting my son back. I signed in relief to share joint legal custody with this family, with myself having physical custody when I should have got my son and ran. But God knew I wasn't good at this time. Even though they may not have known what I was doing, God did. I was so thrilled to get custody back of my son. I can remember, signing the papers and talking to Mimi and saying, look, I don't want to lose you guys. Y'all have helped me so much, you think we can do joint custody together? And I don't know how that came about, because, let me continue reading, because it seems like, hold on. Okay, I resented this family for a long time, but now I'm thankful to God they exist in a matter. Okay, y'all. So, with these instances, there's a fly. Ugh. Ew. With these instances, there were lessons that needed to be learned. Okay? The judicial system failed, but God didn't. So everything that has happened accordingly and divinely, you know? I resented this family for a long time, but now I'm thankful to God they exist in a matter. The matter is that my son is safe. That is why I'm thankful for them. But that's it. Considering I have been given many opportunities to get my act together, yet I didn't make, and this is the truth, yet I didn't make right decisions. I selfishly put my son in this situation, and this is me taking accountability, okay? For every action that we take, there is an invoice, okay? And then I go to say, everything happens for a reason. I know, but as I mentioned earlier, accountability can be a hard pill to swallow. I can genuinely say that I am thankful for sobriety today because as I sit here in the library, I am clear headed and aware of my thoughts and actions and wouldn't fall back into the fantasy world that active addiction bounded me before, too. Oh, there's so many spell errors in this book. My God. I got some work to do on my second one, but this was trial and error. I did good, you know? Action or addiction bounded me before. I'm able to slip right back into reality, a place I find extremely hard mentally and emotionally hard to face. You know, in the beginning, it was so hard to face because, you know, a lot of people, when they are under the influence, they're under the influence because there are things that they blocked out in their life, like traumas that they have not learned the coping mechanisms, you know? So you block them. So really, this journey I have had to sit with myself and take true accountability of everything that I've done. And this is something that you will have to do too. And it's gonna hurt. It's not gonna be easy, but you will feel the sense of, relief once you get that off your chest. And once you realize the wrongs that you did do, there is a solution. You can correct them. No matter what comes your way, there is a way out and a way to better yourself. Okay? I'm finally free and greatness doesn't come easily. It's true. I am prepared for whatever obstacles I may encounter that may come my way in the future. It's true. Okay? I'm prepared and protected by my God. And, you know, during active addiction, you forget about God. You know, the materialism of the world, the ego, the pride, you get consumed in it. And this is why we have crises, because God takes everything and anything that you thought you needed away so that you can remember Him. You can remember who to fall on, who to count on, who to put your faith and your trust into, because no one else is going to have your back like God does. Okay? He continues providing for both Weirdo and me, and you will understand more as you read. I know this was God protecting my child. Things should have been handled a lot differently, but like I said, it is what it is, you know? It says the judge and no one else knew about my drug use, so I stood up and told the judge that if in fact my son desired to live with the on and off again family, and that was the family's desires as well, I wouldn't pay child support. The judge asked the family if they were able to support my son, and they answered yes, more than able. So the judge waived my child support. He granted me at least one visit a month with my son under the on and off again family's discretion, and for Weirdo not to have any contact with my son. I will admit Weirdo and I would fight like cats and dogs. Drugs could do that, would do that to you. My son probably just got sick of it. It's not even a probably. He got sick. He got really sick of it, you know? Who could blame him? And then, for the longest time, I struggled with did he really tell the judge he didn't want to live with me? I just couldn't believe it, you know? But now I've come to terms that, he probably, he did, you know? So I asked the judge during court that if I took, I did set myself up, but this is after court that I did ask him. Because it says, I asked the judge during court that if I took a drug test and passed it, could my son come home with me? And the judge said, not necessarily. I remember this. Okay, this is why we're reviewing this. Okay, I asked the judge, it was during court, but then it was after court that he mandated me to go take a drug test. It was when everyone left the courtroom. So yeah, that's like a slap in your face. It's like, okay, well, y'all aren't charging me with doing drugs or neglecting my child, but I do throw it out there. Well, you think if I go take a drug test, can my son come home with me? And the judge tells you, no, not necessarily. Corruption. What I didn't understand was what right they had for taking my child. My son got mad over an iPhone 11 that I couldn't afford. That's not a good enough reason to remove a child from their home. I look back at it now. I believe that was the reason for the longest time, but I know that I was not performing as a mother, the mother that my son needed at that time. I was not performing at my best. So God in the background was removing my son, yet I struggled and blamed it. Yeah, I blamed it on the iPhone, which really, that's how it escalated. But I'm looking outside of what meets the surface, okay? My son threw a fit over not getting the iPhone, but even though me being a drug addict played a big role in it and it wasn't spoke about in these courtrooms, or there was no evidence of it, God knew that is why my son didn't need to be in my home. You get what I'm saying? You gotta see outside of it. So I'm glad we're reading this. Reason to remove the child from their home. I offered to take a drug test. I knew I would fail, but the judge didn't. Court ended, and as everyone left the courtroom and the judge and I were the last ones remaining, he said, Miss El-Maghazi, I'm going to need you to go and take a hair follicle test and pay $180 and bring it to me in 3 days or have it faxed here. I spent all my money that I received from my taxes on my drugs and had no money. Wait, this needs to be re-edited too, because that's not true. I literally spent all my tax money on my son, all his clothes and his computer, and I spent probably about $90 on dope out of $3,000. So there's a lot of stuff in this book that's incorrect. It was published incorrect, and I'm just now realizing this. My God. Huh. Because, yeah, it says in my money that I received from taxes on my drugs and had no money. Okay. The judge requested it off the books, just like my son was removed unlawfully. I didn't follow through. I contacted the judge a week later and told him it wasn't documented and I didn't have the money to pay for it. The next day I received a retyped court order ordering me to take a hair follicle test from the crooked judge. He made sure it was documented. I shouldn't have called him. But yeah, I'm glad I did, Because really, honestly and truly, guys, you want to move with truth. Because if you keep living a lie, It will only get worse, okay? Okay, instead of the on and off again family encouraging the reunification between my son and myself, they made a mockery and a joke of me to him. So I decided I had had enough. I had to become strong, strong enough to get what I wanted, to protect my kids, and to be confident enough to go, it says mock, but go knock on these doors, request for my kids to come outside and get in my car. I was almost there. I was able to pick my kid up and finally bring. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of spell typos in this. So really I was trying to say that there will come a day that I am confident and strong enough to be able to go knock on the on and off again family's door, request for my child to come outside, get in my vehicle, and we will go home. That is what I meant to say. Yeah, AI sucks. I should have really took some more time to edit this, but I was so pushed and so upset in the beginning when I published this book that I wanted my story to be heard and I wanted to be listened to and I wanted the truth to be out there, that I was in such a hurry and so excited about publishing this book. Yeah, without really editing it too well. I'm glad we're reading this together. All right, so my insert was, God was telling me it was time for me to step it up and heal so that one day I'm strong enough to be the mother both of my kids needed. So I sucked it up and it hurt. Don't get me wrong. I realized I had to fix myself before I could be good to anyone. I realized God stuck it out with me through the good and the bad, and he is going the rest of the way with me. I just have to be patient and start living right. I realized I didn't have a chance at building a good relationship with my son until I got right with God and myself. Guys, when you're under the influence and you've lost your child 2 times before this, and this is becoming a repetitive thing, and your life is not getting any easier, that right there in itself would break someone down to where they feel like they don't want to get up. But there is a resilience in me that got me up and got me through this, y'all. And I am unstoppable, okay? Nothing can stop me. Now, if God tells me stop, no, because he won't, he's proud of me. All right, guys. Yeah. There's a few things that, like, a few of these sentences that are typed up or in here, like, don't make sense. Even if you try to, like, fix them, they don't make sense. So I'm glad we're reading over this, and I'm explaining it to you. Yeah. My goodness. This is my book. I can lick my fingers now. God bless. All right. Chapter 28. Now, this is the breaking point. Okay, we're at 18 minutes. We're doing good. There were many events that led to Weirdo and I leaving Alabama. We were living in Beauregard, Alabama, in a trailer park on a dirt road. Everyone in that trailer park was related. It seemed like, y'all. It did. And I'm not just being stereotypical. Like every other trailer was related. Set in their ways, on dope, dealing dope, trying to set people up, gang stalking, and the other people in this trailer park are all the people that I came across in that trailer park were just as low vibrational as I was. We were all unhealed, you know? Always gossiping, snooping around, literally snooping around. They would be kind to your face, but I wasn't going to put this in my book, but I'm speaking my truth. I am the type of person who loves to see people doing great in their lives. It makes me happy. But this trailer park made our lives hell. We did too, but it gets interesting. All right. These people hated to see us doing well. This is truth. It all began before I met Weirdo. I was dating a Marine. My dope dealer lived in the first trailer on our dirt road. Every time I had problems with a Marine, I would run over there and tell this old man, Hateful man, all my business. In the beginning, I was naive and thought my dope dealer was my friend. Little did I know he would use all of this against me for years to come. This dope dealer would crumb me and rip me off every time I bought dope from him because he knew he could get away with it. He tried for the longest time to have sex with me, but I wouldn't ever give in. I found out later on he told everyone that we slept together. I wouldn't dare. Gross. Gross, gross, gross. But whatever. Okay. There was a guy, we will call him Jim, or Joe. Him, his wife, and daughter lived a couple trailers up from us. He was considered the maintenance man for my landlord and was always helping everyone out. At times I would get him to get me dope when I couldn't get dope from the dope man, because for some reason or another I was being cut off because I would call my dope man out. And he would explode in rage, call me a whore, and every disgusting name in the book. Let me tell you this, guys. If you ever have a conversation with somebody, and this does not have to pertain to dope, but they get outraged, and you're just looking at them and you're thinking, what the hell did I say? Okay, they're guilty. Okay? They are guilty. This is true. All right? Because anyone that's telling the truth can keep their composure. They can be calm and they can speak what needs to be heard. Yeah, just calmly. All right. In all actuality, he was worse than scum. I'm speaking truth. Okay. I knew Joe wasn't someone to be trusted. He was always out all hours of the night, creeping around. No one on dope should be trusted, even me at the time. Nah, you could trust me. I'll take that back. I was that addict where I would be extremely honest with the wrong people. Tell them too much of my business with the wrong people. Oh my God. Yeah, so I'm glad we're reading this book. Alright. It took a lot of trials for me to finally wake up to reality. Joe's daughter had a huge crush on my son. I believe this neighborhood of low vibrational people, including myself, had everything to do with my son hating his life. I believe my son knew things that were going on around in our neighborhood, and I was unaware of because I would always be at work after the Marine left us and my son would be at home alone. Even when the Marine was with us, there were a lot of times I was not there. The devil had a hold on me. God. There were a handful of people I let my son hang out with. My dope dealer had a nephew that lived up the street. I would take my son to his house so that he could play every now and again. And then there's this family right behind our trailer park that I would let my son go over and play with their boys almost every day. You know, I was such a protective parent. Like, I had to talk to the other kids' parents. I had to know exactly where my son was, you know? And a lot of the parents in the neighborhood, they weren't like that. Like, I'm the type of person, if I drop my son off at your home and I speak to you as an adult and I trust you with my child, okay, I expect him to be there when I return because I put my trust in you with my child's life to take care of him for the few hours that I'm allowing him to play with your kids, you know? But there was one time or a couple times that my son would not even be at the kids' homes. He'd be at another kid's home or out having ice cream. We'll get into that. This is the difference between my mothering and other people's mothering. And I didn't understand how they could be so free with their kids, you know? But it's a disrespect thing, you know? Because, like, my kids are my life, you know? Alright. Ooh, my foot's falling asleep. Hold on. Okay. This family asked me one day if my son could bring his Xbox over. They already had one, but I agreed, naive as I was then. All of my credentials were used to open a Microsoft Xbox account so that my son can play his games. Later that evening, when my son returned with his Xbox, I lost access to two of my Gmail accounts and the passwords were changed so that I couldn't get back into my accounts. I tried absolutely everything to regain access. The more my son spent time with his family, his attitude changed, not for the good, but extremely disrespectful. My son and these two boys ended up going to my son's Mimi's house one weekend, and they were all supposed to stay the entire weekend riding four-wheelers, but they didn't even make it one day. My son's Mimi calls me and tells me all the boys are wanting to come back to my house. So they return. This is sounding like something, right? It's just a regular thing that happens. They don't want to be at Mimi's house, you know? Huh. Okay. So they return. I put an end to my son spending time with this family because one day I was outside doing yard work and my son was running down the dirt road, bawling, just crying hysterically from their home. And I asked him what had happened and he refused to tell me. I can recall an extremely awkward moment while I was at the Walmart working. These boys' parents came to the exact aisle I was stocking items on and literally lingered linguine. That's silly. I had linguine at Olive Garden last night at my engagement. Okay. Literally lingered on that aisle for 40 minutes without saying a word to me. Just both of them on their cell phones doing God knows what. And what made it awkward was I was stocking items on an African American hair aisle. This couple is Caucasian. To me, they were either trying to scare me or they were posting up to make sure I was where I was because something was going on at my home that I wasn't aware of, or that's what they wanted me to think. It's so weird. Literally, I can remember exactly what the woman was wearing. And the guy, she was standing over her buggy on her phone, just texting, and he was like 2 feet away from her, and I was like 3 feet away from them, and we were on the African American hair aisle. Literally 40 minutes. They didn't say a single word to me. They just stood there. You know, that's just weird, you know? I sent a text to this couple the next day and instantly I was gaslighted and told I was crazy. I wanted to know what was up, you know? And usually people, the abusive tactic that I have learned is that people will try to make you feel like you are crazy when you're not, you know? Just to fuck with your head. This is it's so, some people are so nefarious. I like that word, nefarious. They're just so evil, you know? But yeah, I was gaslighted and told I was crazy. But literally for 40 minutes, they were on their phones on the aisle that I was stalking on. Why not any other aisle? And these were my neighbors that my son plays with every day. Things just kept getting worse and worse and worse with this family. It would be different if it were the Caucasian hair product aisle and these people were actually shopping. When Weirdo and I started dating, things started to get extremely strange. Every time Weirdo and I would go to fighting, he would run across the street and tell the neighbors what was going on. He would tell Joe, the maintenance guy, and he would tell everyone in the neighborhood. And these people would feed off of the drama. And at the same time, during active addiction, you tend to be a follower and definitely not a leader. He would talk down on me to everyone around out of anger. He would stay the night with the neighbors across the street every so often. Because I would kick him out, y'all. I would. Like, I was so, like, a roller coaster, and my emotions were everywhere. I would just be like, I don't want you here. Just leave me alone. Or if we ran out of dope, get away from me. And this is why it's important to be sober. Okay? Joe rubbed me the wrong way one afternoon when I was walking our dog, and I stopped to talk to him. And he asked me where my son was, and I told him he was playing his Xbox. And Joe goes on to say, your son is a really behaved boy. And to me, I thought, how would you know how behaved my son was? Joe was acting like he knew my son, but my son and him, to my knowledge, never held a conversation. It made me wonder what was going on in my trailer park when I was at work. It really, it put weird feelings, and really, I'm so glad to be sober now because now if things like this things like this wouldn't even happen, you know? My intuition is, I trust my intuition. And guys, with sobriety and just, when you're living right, you trust yourself, okay? Back then, I didn't trust my intuition or my feelings or my thoughts. I didn't even know they existed, okay? Everyone in the trailer park knew what time I worked and what time I got off work. A female across the street and her brother both worked at the same Walmart as me. There were many times different people in my trailer park literally followed me to from work and many different places I would go. I used to think it was paranoia because of the drugs, but it got to the point that I would purposely pull into a dead-end road park and this white vehicle would pull in right after me, and it was the same white vehicle each time. There was a silver car too. This left me in fear to go anywhere, do anything. Guys, people will gang stalk you to have you in fear. Just like I explained, it left me in fear. These people are sick, demented, okay? And they 98% of the time have ulterior motives. There's a reason, okay? They either want you to completely lose it, to off yourself, to take something that is of value of yours, okay? And this is me. I know these things because it's happened to other people that I know. A lot of people don't make it out of gang stalking situations, okay? I did. And I'll be damned if it ever happens to me again. Because, y'all, it will traumatize you. It will ruin your life. But there's not an ounce in me that would have ever contemplated to ever kill myself, you know? Never. Even though it got really, really bad, it I knew that I could pull out of whatever situation that was thrown my way. I was built for this shit. But it says, this left me in fear to go anywhere or do anything. One morning, my landlord called me and told me the night before there was a white truck parked in a vacant lot 2 trailers down from mine. She said 2 men got out, went around to my back door, and were trying to get in. She said she wasn't sure if they got in or not. At the time, I was at work, and Weirdo and my son were at the house. I questioned Weirdo and my son as to why they didn't tell me about it, and my son got extremely defensive and said for me not to yell at Weirdo. My question is, how did my landlord know that there were 2 men at my back door trying to pry into my home, but neither my son or Weirdo knew? Then another family who lived in Twin Pines Trailer Park, I would have to drive my... Okay, let me rephrase this because it's the editing's shitty. Okay, so my son, I would take him to Twin Pines Trailer Park to another family's home. Okay. I would have to drive my son a little ways so that he would be able to hang out with them. That friendship ended quickly at Twin Pines. He said the boys always were covered in poop and he wasn't ever allowed to play the game system with them. Plus, I allowed my son to go to the skate center with his family and he was supposed to be back by 8 p.m. that evening. These people took him to Columbus, Georgia without letting me know. As I'm at home freaking out and he's not returned until 3 or 4 a.m. I was worried sick and these people didn't care. They acted like it was just normal. God. Ugh. One event that scared the living shit out of me was when I told my son he could go to his friend Martin's house after school one afternoon, but he wasn't to leave or go anywhere with anyone until I picked him up. My son knows better than to do such a thing. I even spoke to Martin's mom, and we agreed on this. I leave work and go to pick my son up, and my son isn't where he was supposed to be. My son ended up leaving Martin's house with my dope dealer's nephew and my dope dealer's lady best friend. Weirdo and I looked for my son. We went to the couple of people's homes he could have gone to with no information until this kid that was playing outside in Martin's neighborhood told us that my son left with the dope dealer's nephew and lady friend to go get ice cream. No one asked my permission. I didn't have this woman's phone number, and to me this was downright a crime. I went home and waited patiently. What made the situation way worse is my dope man and Joe knew exactly where my son was and watched me freaking out and didn't say a word. This woman had my son for 4 hours, and I had no idea what ice cream shop they were at. And finally, we got the woman's number from the dope man, and I call her, and she says, "You fucking bitch. I'll bring your..." I'm so glad I'm not in this life anymore. It just nerves me to read this. Because it's just so... "Bring your goddamn son home when I feel like it," she said. "This is what you get for messaging my husband and asking him for money, you fucking whore." I mean, her words were so ugly. I couldn't believe this was happening. Her husband messaged me telling me how he was single, which I could care less about. At the time, I was an active user, and I asked to borrow some money, and this was a month prior. I completely forgot about this. I never even met with the guy. My son returns home and he is so disrespectful to me, and I mean, my son said some of the most hateful things to me. He went into his room and didn't say anything about it. I'm disappointed in myself because if I were sober, I could have protected my son instead of fearing everything. I miss my son more than words can ever express. I don't know what happened when he went with these people. There were a few times I found panties that weren't mine and mascara that wasn't mine in my home. Things would go missing. I would question Weirdo about the panties, and he would say his wife probably came into our home and put them there to start shit. Robert, my partner, used to be married, okay? But with how low vibrational this trailer park and we were, okay? I had lost my house keys one time, and I'm pretty sure the maintenance guy got a hold of it, and I'm sure he'd been in my house a few times. There were people going in my house, and I'm saying this as clear-headed as possible because I know for a fact that weren't supposed to be in my home, that fucked with things in my yard and my vehicle to fuck with me mentally. And these were scare tactics, and this was funny for these people. They love this shit, and you don't do this to people. God has a special place for people like that, honestly. Alright, and he would say his wife probably came into our home and put them there to start shit, or someone was doing things for us to argue. Right now that I think about it, I believe that. People were instigating arguments with us. A lot of people, they don't like to see you happy. They get jealous and envious, and it's just like, ugh, why? But yeah. And he would say as well, okay, we just read that. A part of me truly believes this. It got so strange, we ended up getting cameras inside and outside of our home. We lived in fear, and all along it was the people in our trailer park doing these things. We literally ran out of Alabama. God protected us the entire time. I'll tell you all this because I know I would have been swallowed alive if I stayed any longer, and this is truth. I want you guys that have been through anything like this to know you are not crazy. It happens to the best of us. Guys, you are not crazy. Gangstalking is real. Okay, and it is one. So many people have committed suicide over bullshit like this. And the fucked up thing about it is the people that have done it to you are roaming freely, doing it to other people as we speak. You are not crazy. Guys, when someone starts to, this is something I need you to know, when somebody starts to make you think that you're crazy, or ignore you, or start arguments with you for nothing, or get enraged over a simple question. Guys, these people are gaslighting you. They're abusing you. There are a lot of narcissists out here, a lot of jealous, envious people. Get the fuck away from them. You're not crazy. And you'll realize how sane you really are when you sober up. This is why this is very important, to get in alignment and take your power back. Now, if you want to continue to live in shit like this, continue to get high. Continue to associate with people that are not of high vibration. It is time you take your power back. Man, I will tell you this right now. I am sick. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. There's no way in hell I will ever go back to what destroyed me. Ever. Okay. It says, you cannot let the evil in the world win. You have to gain the courage to get out and become the best version of yourself. Okay? And then I go to say, being sober has made me wonder if back in 2017, when my son's other family basically threw my son at me when I was living in the motel, drinking, drugging, prostituting, and them not knowing this quote unquote boyfriend Marine that I met on an online dating site. It's made me wonder if the other family already knew the Marine. Why else, if you cared so much about my son, would you give him to me freely? Life goes on. We heal and we understand that everything that has happened in our lives was necessary for us to become who God put us on this planet to be. Alright guys, so I question this. It's in the past. It is whatever. But back in 2017, when they threw my son at me, pretty much when I was living in a hotel and I was drugged and doing this, it's just so odd to me that if somebody cared about a child so much, wouldn't you think to investigate and make sure that the mother was living accordingly and was healthy to take her son back? You know? There's just so much confliction. But the good thing about this is I'm not conflicted anymore. I'm not stuck in that anymore. And we're almost done with this book, which means we're going to start getting to the really, really good stuff, guys. You need to remember that you have to go through a lot of shit in your lives, but this shit's not happening to you. It's happening for you. You have lessons to learn. It will hurt. It will suck. But the quicker that you wake up and you realize that you don't want to repeat the same fucked up cycles, the quicker you can get on track and defeat the evil people in the world. You know, once you take your power back, no one can tell you no. And they will be forced to give you back everything that is rightfully yours, that was wrongfully stolen, unjustly just taken from you. Your character was defamed. They have to correct their fuck ups, and if it's not here in this physical court, spiritual court is way worse, guys. Trust me, it's way worse. Correct your wrongs. I gotta use the bathroom. I'll get back on here. I want to try and finish this book today. We'll see what we can do. I love you. Bye.